Hi, I'm John. This is my show, An American Scheme, where I'm proving that Diana Ross is Michael Jackson's actual mother. So one of the pages out there, a Michael Jackson fan page, is this page called The Detail. And so these videos, it's so funny because I can watch a video like this and it's like, this video's totally proven my story, and it's actually like, seems like this person's actually almost like working for me, doing videos related to my story. But the funny thing is, I don't even know if they have any idea of my story. I've never spoken to this person. I've never gotten any comment from this person. And from what I remember, this page hasn't been around that long. I remember when they came around, it seemed like. So, but they make good videos. I do like their videos, and I actually like them because it's related to, like I said, they're related to my story. They're doing videos related to my story. So what's cool is I can go through these videos, and they use those cool because when you're doing Michael Jackson, Diana Ross stuff, there's all the footage that's out there, but it's not as easy to find the collective, all of that footage that's been collected in one spot, and so that's what's cool about these videos is I can use these videos because all of that stuff that's out there, instead of me having to go search through all of that stuff, I can use one of these videos and just boom, 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 go right through it because they use a lot of the videos, the same stuff of what I use and stuff. So this thing about what I want to show you here is like, first of all here, just listen to this first thing here really quick. Listen to this.
I know you know that Michael and I are like family.
Okay, so I know that you know that Michael and I are like family. So what I want to point out there is that Diana Ross consistently refers to Michael Jackson as a part of her family, like a child, a son, a family member, something like that. And in this video alone, I looked it over and she referred to him 11 times. There was 11 times where she had referred to Michael as a child, son, a family member, some form of a direct family member. 11 times. And that's what I'm saying. And like how she says there, I know that you know that Michael and I are like family. That's what it is. That's the thing that was between them, the connection. And like how she states right there, the connection between Michael and I is that we're like family. And then she keeps telling people, but there was this other thing that got lost in translation because of the media and because they're having to cover up the true story of what's going on, like what I say that she's actually Michael's mother, and people didn't understand what the connection was. And because of that, rumors of a relationship developed, and because of Michael had to, see, Diana Ross is a pretty woman, and they're famous people, and part of being famous, you need to be attractive to the public. And when Michael Jackson got up and saying little things about Marion and things like that and stuff, when he would be talking about Diana Ross being so beautiful and loving her in that kind of ways, parts of that is just being part of the media, where Michael's actually supporting her, as being part of the media, how he has to talk to the public. A lot of that stuff is just tricky little stuff that happened within the media stuff. Because the real relationship stuff, when you actually see the real over and over what actually happens, you see it's more of that she's like a mother to him. And it's actually because she is his mother. And when you start looking at my stuff, you'll see that it proves it, because there's no reason for the relationship of the way she is with him and stuff, the way it's crazy stuff. So here, let me look at okay, I'm gonna go through this video and pull up a couple little things that I thought was really interesting. Okay, now listen to this.
Half as much as I would like to see him. I did see him maybe a couple months ago and introduced him to my sons, my boys. And my little one, Evan, loves music and wants to look like Michael Jackson.
Do you think he wants to look like you? Do you buy that? Do you think he will?
No, I don't buy that at all.
Okay, so let me just play so I got a picture. Okay, so right there, Diana Ross says, oh, I introduced him to my little boy. My little boy wants to look like Michael Jackson. Okay, so that's what I'm saying. The subtleties of the way she speaks about Michael Jackson, and then within her family, now my little boy Evan, she's talking about Evan Ross, she's saying, Evan wants to look like Michael. And it's like, she does these subtleties, these little subtle things that she shows there, where when you understand my story, then you understand that stuff. And the other part of that is she highlights that Evan wants to look like Michael, but then the guy comes back and asks her, well, what about Michael wanting to look like you? Which we're talking about a big, where people talked about that on a large, that's what I'm saying, it was such a large scale, or I believe that was the Larry King we were just looking at. But even Larry King, once he wants to ask her about, oh, well, what about Michael wanting to look like you? It was one of these things that was so obvious and so okay? But look at how quick she denied that, okay? Oh, no, he doesn't want to look like me. But right before that, she says her child wants to look like him. So you see the relation of how the context of the words that come out of her mouth, they're actually tricky and confusing. And most people are just hearing it and they're not really, but when you understand the relation that she's actually the mother, you see clarity and you see why she says these things that she says and why they come out the way they do. And my stuff just brings clarity to everything. So let me show you another one here. Okay, here we go.
A little boy,
Yes.
right.
Since he was about 8 or 9.
So many people are now claiming that they discovered the Jacksons, you know, and so on. But what was your relationship?
Well, actually, I think Barry Gordy discovered them at a step. I think I gave them an opportunity on my television specials to be introduced for the first to the American audience. And they were really young then.
And they came and lived with you, too, didn't they?
Yeah, I had a place in California, and they were moving from their home into California, so they stayed with me for a while. Michael's very creative. And, you know, this is a family in trouble right now.
Does it break your heart to see what's
Yes,
happening?
all the support. I saw the family on television the other night, and I sat there, and I
That's just, so, a family in trouble. There's a lot to what she just said right there to break down. So, one part about the family in trouble is she really acknowledges Michael as being part of the Jackson family and that's the Jackson family, okay? And that family became a thing known as the Jacksons, an American Dream. Okay, you can see how she's respectful of that and that Michael's in that family and that he's a Jackson, okay? You can see how she's very respectful of that. There's parts of where she, and now this is later in her life, so she's gotten to the point where she totally, you know, she accepts that Michael's a Jackson. That's the way it's going to come down in history. Where when you see in the beginning stuff where she was really going out with Michael, like she says when they came and lived with her. First, let's talk about the other part where she says about the discovering. Okay, now when they talk about the discovering, I've proven the actual dates and all of this stuff, how it happened. But here again, when they get to talking about the discovering of the Jacksons, she goes to saying, I represented them on the show, okay? But what happened, and when the people really know, they talk about Bobby Taylor, but there's two different things with Bobby Taylor. There's the Bobby Taylor at the Regal Theater in the Chicago, where that's technically where it starts, from that meeting where the Jacksons are then moved into Motown and stuff. But before the show in the Regal Theater, there was the show in Gary, Indiana. It was some political rally event that they had done there, and Diana Ross actually performed at that show. Bobby Taylor was actually there too. So you've got Diana Ross performing on the same stage as Bobby Taylor, and actually that show was in Gary, Indiana, and the Jackson 5 actually performed on that same stage at that event. And that's before the Regal Theater. So you're talking way before the meeting of Barry Gordy. We're way before the meeting of Barry Gordy. Then the reality of what happens is when they talk about coming to Motown, I don't know if you played it here. I might have it on another clip here that I'm going to show. I think it might be on another one. Yeah, let me go ahead and go to the next clip and then I'll talk about that part. Hold on one second. Okay, here parts of this she's going to talk about. I'll explain it before she says it on this part. She's going to say here about when the Jacksons came to Motown, and then she's going to say they performed for Barry Gordy, and it's at the pool house, at Barry Gordy's pool house thing. So what happened was, when you people that are actually Jackson fans, you know the actual video of the Jacksons performing the very first performance at Motown, when Michael's dancing, looking like James Brown and stuff. Okay, the actual reality of that situation is that was the actual first time the Jacksons performed, but that was at Motown. That was actually at Motown. And what was happening is, see, it's on video. The reason it was on video was because they were videoing it to ship it to Barry Gordy so he could watch the video. That's the reality of that situation. The reality was Barry Gordy was not even there at that time. Barry Gordy still was not there. But the reality of who was actually there was Diana Ross and Smokey Robinson. They were both there at that actual event. When you see see the video where Michael's dancing around, that actual first time when they went to Motown, Diana Ross and Smokey are there, not Berry Gordy. They videoed it for Berry Gordy. That's the reality of that situation. And Michael said after they performed that Diana Ross walked up to him and said, I'm going to take special personal interest in your career. She instantly validated him before Berry Gordy had even seen the video of them. That's what I'm saying. Then when they start telling you the story, they tell you the story of the pool house event. That's the next time. That's where the Jacksons dress up and they have their outfits and they performed at this pool house party at Berry Gordy's house. That's a different event. I don't know the actual date of that event, but I know that that's a later event that took place later. That's when the Jacksons were like polished, and now they performed and they were presented to all of Motown. That was a total different thing. The actual time when they first auditioned for Motown, that's the video where you see Michael looking like James Brown. They have the video. Diana Ross and Smokey are there at that moment, and they're videoing it for Berry Gordy. So when she's always denying, when they're talking about who discovered the Jacksons, I've got Diana Ross in Gary, Indiana, before they play with Bobby Taylor at the Regal Theater in Chicago. This is the reality of the situation, and people keep trying to say Diana Ross didn't have anything to do with it, and then they play it off too. And it's like, people don't even step to me. I'm the one. I've got the real facts. You people have nothing. The stuff that the people step to me with their dates and their stuff, I destroy it. They've got nothing. Once you actually see what I'm dealing with, their stuff is destroyed. It's so pathetic. So here, let me play this little clip for you here. Listen to how she's speaking about Michael and all the stuff, what she's talking about.
I didn't get a chance to talk about, I wanted to talk about how we met and all of that. The boys came to Detroit for a showcase for Berry Gordy. And I remember them wearing these little green outfits and these hats. And they did a show in Berry's house in Detroit called the Pool House. And we knew then that it was going to be something special. And I got an opportunity to introduce them on the Ed Sullivan Show, and the rest is just history. And we did a television special and so on, and I played with Michael. And they came to live with me in California for, it seemed like just a few months, but I don't know how long it was there when the parents were moving from Indiana up to California. And I got to know them very well, and I tried to train them. I tried to tell them, tried to teach them how to make their beds and how to wash the dishes and pick up the dishes from the table. So I was sort of like a parent, and I feel like that since...
That's enough. I was sort of like a parent constantly. They moved into her house. She's like, I tried to train them. She said the word train, and it's like... And then she's always referring to Michael instantly. Michael special, Michael this. It's not the Jackson kid, which if it was actually the Jacksons, like if she didn't have any relation with Michael, like I'm saying she's the mother, so there's a built-in relation secret thing. But let's just say that she had just met them, just like normally, and they had moved out with her. What had happened with her and Michael and stuff, it would not have happened that way. Not only would it have not have happened that way, because she would have had much more interaction with all of the kids. But that's not what had happened. And Joe Jackson would not have allowed. What actually happened was that she and Michael, over a period of 1.5 years, this is what Michael says in his book Moonwalk. Michael says at that time when he moved into her house that it was 1.5 years and that she and Michael would go out alone almost every day. That's the way he states it in that book. We would go out alone together almost every day over the period of 1.5 years. And she would train me in art and teach me in the ways of the world and things like that. So see how she's saying the training stuff, like when she was, because you can see she's giving you pieces of the information, but she's forming it into the way that fits into the story that they're also telling, And you can see that how she has to dodge around the reality, and then it's so tricky, but it's so obvious when you understand the truth is that she is his mother, and that's why all of these events occurred. And you can see the timelines and the dates and everything lines up perfectly then when you understand that she is the mother. And that's why they say all these things and they all come out, but I've proven everything with hardcore facts and hardcore dates. And then the one thing that I keep saying is the big thing is after you understand the reality of what's going on, like right here, she just said even a couple times, they moved into my house. When they were first signed to Motown and they were transitioning from the Jacksons from moving to LA from Gary, Indiana, they moved into my house. This is like she keeps saying it there. That's a thing that's totally, they moved into my house, okay? When you understand that event took place, okay, so when she meets the Jacksons and stuff, right, she wouldn't run up to Michael and say, Michael, you're my kid, you're my kid. Okay, that's not how it would happen. She has to wait for the right moment, okay? And then so what happens? She buys a house in Los Angeles and she says, move the kids in, move them in. They could come stay with me. Like how do they instantly sign? And then she had just bought, that was her first house she had just purchased in Los Angeles. And what does she say? Move them in with me. Move them in. And then her mother's living there and her brother, but she welcomes the Jackson family right into her brand new Beverly Hills home. That happened. And when she's there, what's she saying? I was like a mother to them. I was trying to train them. I was tucking them in bed. And then what Michael says is that she was actually taking him out over a period of 1.5 years alone. And then in one of these other detail videos where they're trying to say that Michael and her had a relationship, they have Michael stating that when they were going out alone and stuff, that Michael would state, oh, she's my girl. You leave her alone. She's my girlfriend. So to me, that kind of is giving an explanation that she had told Michael that Michael was her child, but that they needed to keep it a secret. And then the other brothers and the stuff, the family, they didn't actually know what was going on. If Michael was telling the brothers that she's his girlfriend, and that means he's claiming possession over her, there's something about them, they have a connection, and he's saying, stay away, that means the brothers don't know. They don't know that she's the mother, that they have not been informed. So I don't know ever exactly, like I said, I don't know when the brothers would know. Of course, Joseph and Catherine know, but who else, like who out of the brothers, like the older, like Jackie, you know, like would he know that Michael wasn't actually a Jackson? Like would he know that much? But then when Diana came in, he would not know anything about that. Like he would not know who Joseph got Michael from. So they would not have, Joseph never would have told any of them, oh, I got this kid from Berry Gordy. None of them would know none of that stuff. Okay, so, and you can see that that's how everything plays out. So if Michael's telling the brothers that she's my girlfriend, that's like, so I'm saying that's kind of proof aligning the fact that the brothers don't know. And then that's where the story starts to develop, that Michael has to give an excuse for why him and Diana have a relationship. First, that story starts to build right there with the brothers. He's got to give an excuse to them instantly. Why am I hanging out with this girl? Why is she showing me all this attention? And then he's playing it cool, like, oh, she's my girl, okay? And then you can see that if Michael played that kind of role within that relationship, then you can see how Michael's relationship pattern developed in an odd way through the 70s, because his brothers are developing normal relationships. Michael's now got this secret relationship with Diana, and he's all messed up, and now he knows he's been affected. He was given away, and she was pregnant at 14. So now Michael knows, oh, girls can get pregnant at young ages, and they can't deal with that, and they might have to give the child away. So Michael's now coming right upon that same age where his mother had given him away. He's coming up on that age. So is he thinking about, oh, I want to hook up with these girls, I want to see what, no. He's like, I'm not really interested in that. I see that in his head, he's seeing that has led to problems. You can see all and then now he's hanging out with Diana Ross. So he's like, well, this feels good to me. I'm going to keep doing this. And you can see exactly the natural pattern that what happened after that event. And what I keep saying is that event is the most important event in time and dates and everything, right around exactly right there when the Jacksons moved to her house and stayed with her, because that's actually what the song Billie Jean is about. That's Diana Ross's Billie Jean. Diana Ross took Michael to her room. It happened much too soon. That's where, it says, and every head turned with eyes that dreamed of being the one. Michael's the one. He's the child. He's the one when Diana's telling him that you're the one. You're my child. You're the reason that led to all of these events and put everything in motion, because the song Shop Around is based around the events of Michael being given away, and that situation with Smokey not wanting to marry Diana, and then that leading to giving the child away because Smokey's mom saying, shop around, don't marry her. That's how that song develops. That song is the song that builds Motown and really shoots them into the stratosphere. It's their first actual #1 song. I mean, it's what happened. And then that's what puts Diana in connection with Berry Gordy, which puts her on the path to going to the Supremes, right? That's what sets up, like I said, Shop Around, which puts Smokey on that puts his first record. That's what made him a star. That's what builds Motown. It's their first thing. Then Michael going to the Jacksons, then coming back, that set the whole thing up for the Jackson 5. That's what I say, when you want to understand the context of what the one is, that's the one. Okay, so when Diana's telling Michael, you're the one. You're the one. Okay? And then so when every head turns with eyes that dreamed of being the one, Michael's now dreaming of being the one. Do you see the understanding? It's a clear understanding of what Billie Jean's actually about. Michael's now at a young age starting to dream. What does this mean that I'm the one? Oh, I'm the one. I'm your child. I'm not a Jackson. And see, he's showing that every head turned with eyes that dreamed of being the one. So he's showing on his personal style, he's starting to have thoughts of being the one. And because he's having these thoughts, the eyes around him are having to turn and look to see, we're going to have to watch you now. So that's the world in which he lived now. Now he's got a world where his mind is wandering and he's being watched. And he's having to develop this weird relationship stuff with Diana, having to lie in the patterns of the public. Can't you see now how that guy developed into the person of who he was? That's why he develops this Peter Pan thing. How does Michael Jackson, from the large family with both mother and father present in the household, lots of brothers and sisters, the people, he says, oh, he didn't have a childhood and stuff. It's like he went to school. He was encountering a lot of kids. There was all kinds of kids that just would have been around the neighborhood. Remember, television and radio stuff is like very in a low form back in those days. It's not that everybody, that's not what you're doing. So you think when the Jacksons were hanging around, you think they're all just sitting around in the house all day? No, they're outside playing around with kids. Of course that's what he was doing. He was interacting with kids, all this stuff. He had a total normal life. It's just crazy stuff. But I keep saying the one part about it is like, okay, if you're a Michael Jackson fan, how can you not care about the song, the actual true meaning of what the song Billie Jean is about? How can you be, and that's why I keep pointing them out. This is the song. This is the song that explains that experience in the beginning of what it's all about, that she's his mother. That song, that's what it's actually about. I can't get fans to even care to give it a try when I consistently show you what she's saying about Michael. She's my kid, my family, all this stuff. That's the reality. And then he's living with her. Everything about like what is actually taking place in perfect timelines and synced up to exactly to what I say, matches up exactly with this is the reality of what would have happened. And you see the patterns after the events when she gets pregnant. You see the patterns after that are perfectly aligned. I mean, talking day after day and year after year. Every single event perfectly aligns with the fact that Diana Ross gave her child away to the Jacksons, that Smokey Robinson was the father, that Berry Gordy and Joe Jackson have an old connection that I've proven through all kinds of evidence and stuff there. And you see all the timelines and all the dates of how everything encounters with each other when as soon as the Jacksons come right back to Motown, what do? They end up going and living with Diana Ross in her house. And Michael states that those two alone are going out together. And she keeps saying, like, I was like a mother. I was training them. Because she's making up for all the lost years. Remember, when the Jacksons moved into Diana Ross, she does not have a child yet at that time. So her motherly instincts and her natural, like, progression, she hasn't done that. She hasn't had a child. She has never tucked a child into bed. She's never done those things. So how is that a natural instinct for her to go through that stuff? She's longing. That was her child. So ever the whole time she has been a mother, but she never got to tuck the kid in. She never got to take her kid out and teach him about the ways of the world. So when Michael Jackson moves into her house, what does she do? I'm tucking him in. I'm training him. I'm taking him out. She's doing exactly the patterns of what would fall into the patterns of what my story shows. Exactly. Every single time, exactly the right patterns. And nobody else has ever even come close to explaining anything because they focus on one little thing here, one little thing there. They never can get the entire story correct. I deal with everything from the day when Michael Jackson is conceived to the day Michael Jackson died. The day Michael Jackson was conceived to the day Michael Jackson died. My story explains everything. Every single thing. All of it. And I have no Michael Jackson fan base that comes around me. You know what they actually do? I got a huge Michael Jackson fan base that attacks me and is trying to get my page removed. And the people, like, they get mad. You yell at people. How am I supposed to talk to who? How am I talking to? I don't know. All I know is that my evidence is here and I've laid it out. It's blatantly obvious. I've been doing this for a while now. And the stuff I do, it's blatantly obvious. And I get attacked for it by Michael Jackson's fans.